Good morning, everybody.
Good
Happy
morning.
day after Thanksgiving. Well, first off, James can't be with us today. His little boy just had an accident. He's okay, but he has to handle that right before the show. So we're going to do a follow-up to explain some more of the legal aspects of this case. And those of you who don't know, our guest today is Captain Saliba. He was an American Airlines pilot. Crash had introduced him to us a year ago or more when she and I were doing our show, and we've explained his plight in what the legal procedures that they were trying to make and have made many captains dangerous procedures. Many captains in our airline industry participate in. Well, he stood strong and he didn't, and he's been in a legal battle ever since. Well, welcome to the show. Good to see you again. And if you guys want to see some of the earlier shows, you could go back to the YouTube channel on either Crashing Justice. That would be on Cloud Hub. They took it all of our shows off of YouTube, but it's still on Cloud Hub. And you could go to the earlier shows on James's channel here, The Justice Revolution, and see some of the earlier explanations. Crash, it's been a while since we've been together. How are you today?
I am here. How are you?
Good. Doing well. So glad to have you and the three of us be together again and chat more about the heroic stand Captain Saliba is making against the FAA and the airline industry's injustices over the last 4 years. So anything you want to share with us, Crash, before we get going? How's it going out there on your homestead?
It's going. I would rather focus on what we're doing. It's been a heck of a year, so let's focus on the mission here.
Okay, great.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for putting this together so we can catch up with what's been going on. It's been a while since we talked, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about what, just give a little historical background, and then go from there. Just like Justice and Crash are very well aware of the historical events that took place. December 6th, actually, that's just coming up. December 6th will be 3 years since I exercised the Federal Aviation Administration Pilot Medical Certification Authority and rejected all of American Airlines medical treatments and procedures. And that includes restricting my breathing using a facial cover over the nose and mouth. And I would say probably I'm the only one in the entire nation that had the police summoned to at a security checkpoint for my refusal to cover my face. And from that point forward, American Airlines came down on me as like a ton of bricks, and they pulled every trick in the book in their attempt to silence me and harm my career with the airline, and more importantly, harm my medical certification and medical standards. So to be clear, I am still employed at the airline. They don't want to fire me. They haven't fired me. They have had many chances to terminate the employment, but they did not. And there's a reason why they're not doing that. However, what they are using is a tactic of delay and financial penalty in hope that I will just give up and move on, which in no way I will do. They are using something called the Railway Labor Act, which is very archaic, really, because it initially was enacted for railway transportation, and the name says it, the Railway Labor Act. However, they included the airlines under that law. And the law basically is intended to keep those airlines going and resolve any disputes between the pilots and the airline. And there's under that act, there's a grievance process that must be followed anytime there's a dispute. And that grievance process is typically handled between the airline and the unions that represent the pilots. And most of the time, it is controlled by the airline. So the outcome is almost preordained to be in their favor. Therefore, they typically resort to the Railway Labor Act grievance process, and so do the courts. So anytime there's a dispute, the courts will say, well, there's a Railway Labor Act grievance process, and you have to exhaust that before you ever come to court for remedy. And in my fight against the airline and against what they're trying to do, which is really, they've destroyed many, many careers, and they've destroyed the health of many pilots by forcing them to take this treatment, which, as we can see nowadays, more and more physicians and scientists are coming out and saying that these spike proteins are actually sticking to the heart tissue and causing damage to the heart. And that's not very good for airline pilots or anybody else for that matter. But I am focused on airlines. So early on, my goal has always been to find a remedy outside the Railway Labor Act. So I went straight to the court and filed my first lawsuit against the airline, in which I had 4 different claims, 2 of which were the most important ones, and those are the ones that I'm pursuing at this time. And one is that I do have an employment agreement with the airline in which I would provide a medical certificate and for me to operate their aircraft, and they have no authority in interfering in that process. Therefore, any interference would violate that employment relationship. The second claim is that they violated the federal aviation regulations, and therefore I am finding a remedy under that violation. The court sided with the airlines, and they said, well, this one specific judge sided with the airlines, saying that it's the employment agreement only states that it is your obligation to provide the medical certificate, and is not an obligation upon the airline. Of course, he did not consider the fact that interfering in my obligation is actually a violation of the employment agreement. Simple argument would be, if you hire some laborer to move some dirt for you from one spot to the other and tie their hands behind their back, well, you just violated that employment agreement, that work agreement. You can't do that. It doesn't stand in any court. However, he ruled that way, and the second ruling was that I don't have a private right to action under the federal aviation law violations, which means that if there's a violation, I must go to the FAA, file a complaint, and then the FAA would investigate the violation. Now, under that logic, the FAA would have to investigate and recover compensation that the airline withheld from me because I refused to jeopardize my medical standards, my FAA medical standards, which is directly related to safety. And in the law, the Federal Aviation Act of 1958, or it's quicker to find 49 US Code 42112, it clearly says that the air carrier has a duty to maintain compensation for pilots and co-pilots who are engaged in transportation or providing transportation. So what the law does is create a right to compensation for pilots and co-pilots. But to exercise that right, it is predicated on the fact that I have to meet the standards set by the FAA for my medical. So in my arguments, an attack on my medical standards is an attack on my right to compensation. So the court, of course, ruled I don't have private right to action, meaning what I explained, I can't take him to court. I got to go to the FAA. Now, at the same time, I filed another lawsuit against the union because the union made agreements with the airline to pay the pilots for all these treatments, all the shots. And that in and of itself is also a violation of the act, the Federal Aviation Act of 1958, because the intent of the act is for pilots and the administrator to make unadulterated decisions that directly affect safety. For example, the administrator, FAA administrator, may not have another job and may not have any financial interest in any aviation enterprise. And the reason is because his decisions have to be unadulterated. He cannot be compromised, and he cannot be biased in favor of an air commerce situation where he favors an airline over the rule of law. And at the same time, my argument is very clear, and that is because for the same intent, the law created a right for pilots and co-pilots to be compensated. So pilots don't make deals, don't jeopardize safety over certain payments or certain payment scheme or not being paid, right?
It makes total sense.
So yes, so that's the intent of the law, and that's where I got stuck. I did again. I was trying to find a way outside the Railway Labor Act, because if I stayed in the Railway Labor Act process, then I would be subject to the whims of the airline and the union, because they control the process.
So here's a quick little statement. Are you aware of this, and is this beneficial to you in any way?
The Chevron?
Yeah.
It is yes and no. Yes and no, because the Railway Labor Act is very clear, and it is the process of grievances is basically a negotiating process that will end in binding arbitration. So it's a negotiation. Okay. Now, in a new lawsuit, I think it would help, because then the agencies cannot just interpret the law as they see fit.
Right.
They would have to interpret the law as intended.
Right.
So it will in the current lawsuit against the FAA.
Great.
So the FAA cannot just come up with a rule of their own and say, well, that's the rule, that's the statute that was enacted, and no, they have to go back to the intent of the law.
That's great. And
I think it would help. However, the claim that I made against the FAA is very clear, and I will talk about that. It's black and white. There's no question about it. There's no doubt about what the rule in the law means. And like I said, I'll talk about that here very shortly.
Okay.
So
here's another question for you, just so we don't get so far away from it. Jen asks, and those of you listen on podcast, I'm just going to read it. You must exhaust the question is, so you must exhaust your administrative options first.
Basically, what the courts have said in one of the claims, not the two that I discussed, okay? In one of the other claims, which I'm not going to talk about, they did say, well, you got to go back to the grievance process in the Railway Labor Act, which is exactly what you're saying. You got to exhaust you have to exhaust that process first before you come to court.
If you get to be the FAA administrator, what would you do to change what's happening to you right now?
I think first and foremost, authorities, because this is all about authorities, have to be restored. So the authorities of the pilots, specifically the pilots, and I will also look at every other member of the aviation community who handles aircraft in one way or the other, restore the authority that the law vests in them, and will definitely remove the HR, human resources influence, out of flight operations, because that influence has been detrimental, be it DEI or interfering in flight operations itself. So certain decisions that pilots would make that are safety related, human resources end up interfering in those cases. And in one case, I know for certain, a captain who brought a safety issue to the dispatcher was reprimanded for doing so. So
That
his
happens
position
quite
now,
often, actually.
yeah. So at this point, he said, "I will never bring any safety issue to anybody, to the attention of anyone anymore,
Yeah, well,
because
you
my
risk
career is
your
on the line."
you risk your career by
That's right.
disrupting their ops.
That's right. So that being said, the whistleblower protection or safety reporting systems have to be safeguarded and have to be supported fully by the agency. Otherwise, the safety of the airlines is just going downhill. It's just going to keep going downhill.
Is there anything
The
that,
manufacturers.
yeah, is there anything that you could think of to possibly help the families and the pilots of that have been impacted by being harmed by the policies you were fighting?
Absolutely. I think the FAA wields huge power, great power, and it's not being utilized. So I can always reach an agreement with the airlines, and the intent is always, my intent is not to harm the airlines, because, as I say, airline pilots are about 0.03% of the population, but we move the nation. We really move the economy. And the intent is not to shut down the airlines or harm the airlines. The intent is to bring them back in line with the safety guidelines of the law. And to do that, as an administrator, I will use the authority given to me by the people. It's written in the law to do that, to reach agreements under accountability. There has to be accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that accountability is that certain management personnel need to just not be involved in aviation at all. They need to be banned from being involved in aviation.
No
I'm sorry?
Bureaucrats in the back seat trying to tell us how to fly, right?
No, that is not how safety is executed. You got to. It's a black and white business, aviation. It's either safe or it's unsafe.
Right.
There's no feel good about it. There
Right.
is no. It is my passion. Therefore, you're going to protect me at any cost to continue enjoying my passion. No, we're providing transportation to the public. It's as the law calls it, is a airlines receive a certificate of convenience and necessity. It's not a certificate for pursuing their passion.
Yeah.
It's a necessity for the country.
It's
Therefore,
serious.
it's serious business. That's correct. Yeah.
There needs
So-
to be some sort of remedy for the pilots that are going to continue flying but may have had some damage, because I know
Absolutely.
there's a lot, because we're having so many incidents where people are becoming incapacitated in the cockpit, and there, do you see any solution going forward? Because the amount
I think so. I think so. Absolutely. There is, because again, the goal is to keep the airlines going, not to shut them
Right.
down.
Exactly.
Or harm the transportation system. To effectively do that, there has to be a mechanism that encourages these pilots to come forward, and the mechanism has to involve income, financial incentive. The
It's
only,
something for
just
them to
like they,
start getting
just
some
like,
sort of medical attention. I know so many that are
that's right.
avoiding getting help because they don't want to lose their medicals.
That's right. Absolutely. They're going to lose their livelihood because of that. But remember, it was the incentivizing
Exactly.
agreements, the
It was
incentive
entrapment.
agreements, entrapment that got them to take these shots. Now we can use the same mechanism, incentives, to get them to come forward and tell the story of what they're going through. And that system has to be financed by the airlines. So they can have a choice. They either lose their certificate to operate, and the FAA administrator has that authority. So does the board, or they create that fund that encourages pilots to come forward. And if they do lose their medical, then they will be compensated for the rest of their career.
Yeah.
That has to be done. There's no other way. There's absolutely no other way. What they're doing right now is they're hoping that new hire replacements will take care of that problem. If they acknowledge that there's a problem. Most of the time, they're not acknowledging there's a problem because they don't want to face the legal consequences of what they have done, right? So
they can't say it out loud because then the flood starts.
Yeah, yes, that's right. So the first thing actually is the fact that they have to admit that a mistake has been made and that they are willing to correct that mistake to safeguard the transportation system in the United States and worldwide, really, in the end. There are many steps that can be taken, including putting these pilots who come forward through a rigorous examination to make sure that they are healthy to operate aircraft and carry the hundreds of people that they carry on a daily basis. Okay. And if it means that they need to have a third pilot on the flight deck, well, then maybe a third pilot is required to be on the flight deck for a certain number of years.
Maybe
because
increasing like jump seat requirements and
yeah,
making sure that
maybe
pilot is ready to go.
Right. Maybe that could be a solution, but I think the scanning or the screening of the pilots is more effective because there are times when that jump seater cannot really do too much to safely recover from an event. Right. So there are many ways that the airlines can be taken care of, and but first of all, they have to admit they made a mistake, and there has to be accountability, and they have to be willing to take care of the injured and maintain the highest standards of safety, continue to maintain the highest standards of safety, and get that HR out of flight ops.
And is this
that's very critical?
What's the premise of? Is your lawsuit encompassing all of that, or is that going to go in steps as far as your involvement's concerned? What's your newest lawsuit regarding?
Yes. So since by the way, I did appeal my lawsuits, and the court of appeals in San Francisco upheld the court decision. And then I went as far as the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just did not want to hear it, denied my petition for certiorari. So I'm still working on that to see if I can get them to change their mind, but I don't think they will, which is okay. I move on. I do something new. And the new thing that I have done is file a lawsuit against the FAA. It's a writ of mandamus. So to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing. Perform their duty. And here's how it went. Since the courts told me on numerous times you don't have private right to action for aviation law violations, I complained to the FAA. I had been complaining to the FAA, filing complaints with the FAA since 2021, right when this whole thing started, because there are certain legal aspects to commerce in aviation that only a pilot can be engaged in, such as declarations of fitness for flight. That's very important. That is an interest that is held by we the people. I mean, we the people gave me authority to carry them up to 35, 39,000 feet safely.
Right.
They did not give that authority medically, from a medical standpoint, to the airlines to dictate any medical treatment. It is me who takes care of my health, and it is me who makes that declaration for the people to understand that I have complied with their orders, basically. I've been ordered by the people to maintain my medical. So that's the one aspect that most pilots just don't understand.
I don't think so much as it's not an understanding, but I mean, just look at your case. You've been fighting this for years now, and it's one incident and that you're taking a stand for, but the fact it's the cards are stacked against us being able to stand up for our own regulations and stuff we're supposed to follow. If the airlines decide that they want to do something against regulations, it's, you know, years off of your life that you're going to dedicate to try to make that change to help other people. And in that time, so many other people are being hurt by the policy that you're fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily that they don't understand or, you know, want to do it. I know quite a few that want to do exactly what you're doing, but they don't have the ability to, for one reason.
That is absolutely, Crash. You're right. You're right. That's a major factor. But in my discussions with, as a matter of fact, I just had a discussion with a group of pilots, well, two of a group of pilots who were terminated, who really, when I discussed the medical certification and the legal aspect of the medical certification, they had no clue. They had no clue. They did not understand it the way it is explained to them. So there is that side of it, and because there's the legal side of it, not necessarily how you maintain your standards, but the legal aspect of certification and the law is what they just did not put together, so they could actually tell the airlines, no, you can't do that.
I think I take for granted that a good chunk of my degree and my husband's degree was aviation law.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple, but yet it's been hidden because naturally the medical certification and standards have never been attacked like they have in this COVID era, right? It's never happened.
Well,
so
I think that's really I think that goes. I think that's, to me, I'm conspiratorial. It seems like a plan, because look at all industries. The laws have been so convoluted and jumbled where the average person, like before the broadcast, you all know me, I always claim to be the useful idiot on the show because I do the production and stuff, but I get to a certain point in legalese and my brain shuts down. And I think it's been designed that way for all industry, for many things, to be able to control us all. I mean, people are waking up, thank God, and people like you stand up and take a stand, but it's many industries as far as what we've witnessed in the last 5 years, at least for me, I think.
I think it would be a little bit heavy-handed to say that it's all nefarious. I think a lot of it is policy after policy after policy, just stacking up, and a lot of it contradicting each other and making it to where people don't really know, because it's a bureaucratic machine at this point. It's not anything to do with common sense. Matter of fact, as soon as you throw in bureaucrats, it's going to counter any common sense. And when you end up in a situation where you have to apply it, such as what he encountered, you're going to be met with hostility because it goes against their normal operations. It goes against what they're trained to do, because they're not trained to weed through everything like, you know, he has done and worked really hard on doing for the last few years to try to make it to where that's not how it is. I think that, of course, there's always going to be some nefarious plots, big industry, that's always going to be money first.
Right.
But
that's what I mean. I mean, at the top of the pyramid, right? They control it all.
Well, I mean, that they're greedy.
Yes.
For example, Spirit just filed bankruptcy, but right before they gave themselves massive bonuses at the very top. I mean, that's just how they operate. You know, once you get to that point, you're not thinking like a human. You're not thinking like an operator anymore. You're thinking like, you know, a CEO that wants to go and buy another Mercedes or whatever they do. It's certainly not what I do. But
I agree. Yeah, I agree with both of you. The nefarious plans take advantage of the complicated statutory laws
Mhm.
that are on the books that hide the simplicity
Yeah.
of the laws passed by Congress.
right.
Okay, and I think one of the most damaging processes is the private right of action or private right to action, where they take your right away from you to take someone who violated the law to court, and they concentrate it in the hands of a bunch of bureaucrats that they make the decision whether to pursue it or not, instead of your constitutional right to a jury trial.
And those
If there's-
decisions go against their best interest.
That's right. So if they served on the board of Pfizer, or they're promised to serve on the board of Pfizer in 5 years, and they're on the FDA or whatever, and they have conflict of interest.
Right.
Okay, so but the point here is they took your right to a trial by jury in any dispute that's over $25. Right? This is the Constitution. This is your right. So they took that away, and they concentrated that in the hands of the few, which in this case is the FAA administrator,
Right.
and the FAA Surgeon General, who is in favor of all these shots. And I believe that she has brought in her personal conviction into the job instead of actually looking at it subjectively. Right? So, and here's where we go back to my case. And since the courts kept telling me you have no private right to action, I kept after the FAA to investigate. All right. So here's the thing. So, like I said, I started back in 21 filing these complaints with the FAA, and they were just dismissed. Like it's not important, even though I raised the legal aspect of the medical certification and the fitness for duty declarations and all that. They just disregarded them because I believe there is an interest in bringing the mRNA platform into the industry and keeping it there and using it in
such a dangerous precedent to set, though, as anybody who has an airline interest at heart, to say the pilots have no discernment on how they're going to apply medical treatments to their bodies, regardless of how they react to them because of pharmaceutical interests or the union interests or whatever that usually conflict, because everybody's making money.
That's right. And this is where I resorted to going the purely the legal aspect of what's going on here, or in the fight, versus the medical aspect, because medically they can argue. I can't argue against them medically, but I can argue against them legally, the legal arena. And so I continued to file my reports, and in late 2023 I filed the one report, safety report, that included all the supporting documents, which I shared with you, Justice. It's got the list of pages, and each page, I detailed what each page meant, and filed that with the FAA. Every complaint that goes to the FAA goes to the Office of Audit and Evaluation. And under the law, so let me explain the process under the law, because this is important. So the Federal Aviation Act of 1958, which they recodified, and under 49 U.S. Code, it's easier to find than the other. Under 49 U.S. Code, paragraph 46101, there is a detailed description of the process of investigations. So, and it says that any person may bring a complaint about a violation of aviation law. Step one, and I'm going to just summarize it here. Step one is the Office of Audit and Evaluation will screen the call. Review the complaint. And if they find merit in the complaint, they will forward the complaint to the appropriate office for investigation. If they don't find merit in the complaint, then they will dismiss it. That's step number one. If the complaint is forwarded to the office for investigation, they have only two courses of action. They either receive an answer that satisfies the complaint from the complaint of, i.e., if you complain about an airline, the airline has to answer and they have to satisfy the complaint. Then they can dismiss or they can close the investigation, or they investigate. They can't sit on it. They can't just shelve it. They can't say, we're not going to do anything at this time. Okay? This is very clear in the law. It is black and white. There is no question about it. So in late 2023, I filed my safety report with all the supporting documents. The Office of Audit and Evaluation sat on it for about 5 months, did nothing, absolutely nothing. Then I sent the same documents again with a legal notice, a notice of affidavit, basically, telling them what the law is, what their authorities under the law are, and what their duties are, and asking them to either file the complaint or dismiss it or do something. You can't just sit on it like that. Within a short time, they filed it with the Office of the Surgeon General for investigation. Okay? So they responded to the notice. And these notices are good because eventually somebody who's conscientious will read the notice, will understand the law, and they will respond by bypassing bureaucracy. See? So they forwarded the complaint for investigation to the Surgeon General's office and sent me an email notifying me and giving me the number of the investigation. Immediately, I sent the same documents and a notice to the Surgeon General herself, Susan Northrop. Within a very short time, she sent me a letter telling me that the FAA will not take does not plan on taking any further action at this time. Okay, so the letter itself, it's a very short sentence, and in and of itself, the letter is telling me that they have started an investigation, but now they're not willing to take any further action. So we are shelving it.
Crazy.
Which is in direct violation of the code that I just told you about, 46101.
So now
she gave me what I needed to file my writ of mandamus in the court.
Okay. And one of the things that, James talks about a lot, and this group is there's much more power in going after the person. So as opposed to going after the FAA, you go after the person that made the decision inside the FAA, because now he's not covered by a corporation, company, whatever shield he has, he's personally liable. Is that part of your lawsuit or future plans?
It can be. My goal is to find remedy for the pilots and really the industry at large, just to get it back on track and do the right thing. Now, I could potentially go after the Surgeon General because I had other interactions with her in which she actually, in writing, violated the Federal Aviation Act of 1958. One of the things that she put in writing is that something to the fact that, we're doing what we can to support the White House. Okay, this administration. Well, she can't do that because the act does not allow them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The act specifically says that their decisions cannot be subject to the opinions of others. They have to be objective, and they have to be safety related. Plus,
And follow the law.
and follow the law. Plus, masking was not regulated by the FAA. Therefore, there was no way for a pilot to be assured that he was meeting the medical standards of the FAA medical standards, which does not include restricting your breathing. But she said that it was a federal law, which is misinformation. So she lied. Yeah. So she lied, and she violated the rules intentionally. I could say she did it intentionally, and she actually harmed my career, because I could have taken that one letter, the very first letter that I received from her was back in 2022. I could have presented that letter to the company, and they would have just stopped harassing me. And that would have been it, right? But she did not do that. She gave me a letter that does not support the standards of the medical certification of pilots. So she is derelict. And this lawsuit that I filed is against the administrator, not the Federal Aviation Administration, because if you want to file a lawsuit against the administration itself, then you have to file it in Washington, D.C., and it's a completely different process. But the administrator, any district court can have original jurisdiction over the lawsuit.
Great. That's
so,
good. I think it's more powerful too. I mean, as people get more leeway when they go after the individual. I mean, not more leeway, more.
It is the administrator who runs the administration. So it is the administrator who has to make the decision to continue the investigation. And the administration, as an administration, is really not at fault. It is the administrator who's at fault. And administrator means the Federal Aviation Administrator himself, or any other person who has received that authority by the administrator, such as the Surgeon General, such as an aeromedical examiner, such as a chief pilot at an airline, such as a maintenance director at an airline, such as a captain of a flight, because a captain of a flight is the final authority. Therefore, he is an administrator by definition, you see. So it is different. There's a difference in going after the administration versus the administrator.
I'm looking through the guy who's there now. I'm looking through his little summary.
Whitaker?
Yeah. He's a private pilot.
Right.
And
he's a lawyer.
He spent most of his career working with car companies. Like, what grounds does this man have to be overseeing commercial pilots? He has no experience as a commercial pilot.
Right. It doesn't. The law doesn't specify.
That should change. If you get there, you need to change that, because whoever's overseeing an entire group of people should understand life from the perspective of that people.
I agree with you, but the law says that they should have an aviation background, and he got his private pilot certificate in 2005, I believe, possibly in anticipation, because he worked at the FAA beforehand. So possibly in anticipation of being appointed.
But that doesn't, to me, and I'm sure I'm going to ruffle some, weekend warriors feathers here, but a private pilot does not actually have aviation experience. They have not.
Well, they have a different aviation experience, and their obligations. Their obligations
kind of
are
experience to be overseeing airlines and operations at a large scale.
For a country.
Right.
I agree. They just don't have the background.
I have a dog, and therefore I should be in charge of all veterinary schools. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Or it's like saying you have an espresso machine at home, and then tomorrow you're the district manager of the United States for Starbucks. It's like...
Right. No, what Crash is saying, I believe, is that they're not bad aviators. They just don't have the background
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have any
run.
problem with private pilots. That's why I was trying to clarify. But
No, I know what
they
you're saying.
don't.
Hey, there
Right.
are private pilots that are better than me. Trust me.
Oh, absolutely.
They
But
just don't have.
they're not
If
going
they
to
didn't,
have the inside knowledge of operations for an airline, or
The business
even a
experience.
corporate job, of like what goes into that to understand what they need to be doing to keep it safe, operating smoothly,
right,
and not have a conflict of interest.
right, right. No,
Yeah.
I agree. I
Sorry.
agree.
No offense to private
Yeah,
pilots.
Yeah, they don't have the
That's not what
business
I meant.
experience. You need corporate experience, business experience, management, project management. There's a whole, I mean, this is a country we're talking about.
that is true. But more importantly, you need flight operations experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That is important. That's very
Yeah,
important.
you
Of
can't
course.
be overseeing Hyundai Motor Group and then go, I know how to run a flight department. No, you don't.
Right, right. This is where HR, human resources, they step in and they allow them to step in and take charge of the flight operations. They just should not do that.
Yeah.
They should not be allowed to do that. So the fight now is to get the FAA administrator to reverse their decision of shelving an active investigation. And there are many things that need to be investigated. First and foremost, the fact that the airlines have actually destroyed the medical certification process, because the medical certification process is grounded in informed consent and self-declaration. When you threaten somebody with their losing their job to take a medical treatment, and I'm taking this opportunity not to say, oh, it's only the COVID shots. No, any medical treatment. I don't care, even the yellow fever shot. Okay, when you threaten them with their income, you are attacking their right to compensation, because the law says they have a right to compensation.
Right.
But they have to be qualified. Therefore, they have to have a medical. And now you attack the medical, you're attacking their rights.
It's coercion.
Okay. Yeah, you're violating the right. You can't do that. And
every American should be concerned.
Yes, I agree with you.
There's pilots all over, not just America, but the world, that have been physically compromised and are afraid to say anything because they don't want to lose their jobs.
And then the stress that they're under to keep their medical while trying to figure out how to manage their medical symptoms. It's a lot.
It is, but they should be concerned for another reason, and that is, we the people make the law. We write the law. Okay? And we the people gave that authority to the pilot to maintain his medical. And now we the people see that a corporation is interfering in our business as the people. We should be concerned that the corporation is allowed to continue to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, so there's a political, a very powerful political aspect to this as well.
A lot of captured organizations we have.
Absolutely. So with this lawsuit, the remedy is for them to the remedy. It's a there's no money in it. It's something that I just want them to do, which is investigate the violations, monitor the pilots that have been damaged, right, and give me the right to action. If you're not going to investigate and recover compensation that was withheld by the airline, because it's ongoing about 2.5 years now that they have not paid me.
Wow. But you're still
but they kept me employed, and this is where that law that says they have a duty to maintain compensation comes into play. Because they have not terminated me, they must maintain compensation,
and they're not,
and they can't stop it because I rejected their mandate to take a shot or restrict my breathing. I'm maintaining my standard, right? So that's their mistake. They should have fired me from day one, right? It would be a completely different claim, a completely different wrongful termination. But right now, it's getting worse for them the longer it takes, and I'm happy with that. Hey, I'm chilling. I'm fine. I'm I'm extremely fine, and I'm very relaxed. I don't have any animosity towards anybody, really. It's a game, and I'm playing the game very well. Okay, and I got them in checkmate. I know I have them in checkmate. They can't move. They keep trying for the fifth time. For the fifth time, they want me to come in to have a discussion about why I did not go to a shrink. Why I did not come to previous meetings that they asked me to come to.
I think it's amazing because the military has the same tactic of if you disagree with any of their orders that you must be mentally unstable. How dare you?
Yeah. Immediately, that's the biggest gun they have, and they pulled that early on in 22. And they tried that 3 times, and 3 times I said, "Hey, give me the reason, and then I will evaluate it." I never said no. You don't say no. All I said is, give me the reason, because the contract says that you got to give me a reason. You can't just make an appointment and say, go. Give me a reason. They never gave me the reason. So 3 different times, and they didn't fire me. 5 different times for a meeting, and I did not show up. I just did not show up. And they haven't fired me either. There's the process that I talked about under the Railway Labor Act, which requires arbitration. We're well past the arbitration time, and they will not come to arbitration. And there's a reason why, because once the arbitration is conducted, it's like a mini court. Is actually, in the opinion of the courts, it is an adequate replacement to a court, trial, right? So if we go to arbitration, it's going to be like going to court. I'm going to score on the record that they violated the law big time. And they don't want to do that. So we're in checkmate. I'm just waiting for them to make the moves that they need to make. But in the meantime, now the FAA has to investigate. They have until December 6th to answer. They told me they wanted an extension, and they were going to file with the court. I haven't seen it yet. I did file a motion in opposition for the extension for several reasons, because first of all, they're the government. They have resources. This has been going on for years. There's no point in delaying it any further.
Right.
And so
it's just
forth.
A tactic.
It's just a tactic. The court will probably give them the extension, and they might come again for another extension, and so forth. Just delay. Playing the delay game. It's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, in the end, they have to face the music. They have to investigate, or something else is going to happen.
It seems like it's just getting worse for them. All these delays. It just shows there's something to hide. If they were forthright in all of this,
is mounting up in his favor every day. Every day they delay, there's more to back all of his arguments.
Absolutely, absolutely. So take your time. I'm in no rush.
Yeah.
No. I wake up every day and I'm like, okay, it's just another day. Another week went by. Okay, what's new? So
tell the folks
this is where I'm at.
Oh, sorry, Cake. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No. Finish your. I just want them to tell them how they can support you when you're finished with your place in the lawsuit. I thought you finished. You said you were just waiting on them to make a move. So.
Yes. Support. It's. I do appreciate support. I think at this point in time. Like I said, the law under 49 U.S. Code 46101 gives any person the right to file a complaint. Okay, they can file complaints. I think that's a great way to support the cause. File a complaint. Financially, to be honest, I'm doing fine.
Okay.
Financially, I'm doing fine. There are many people who have raised a lot of money to fight the FAA, and they have done zero, nothing.
Okay, so
Okay.
where do they go to file a complaint?
If they go to the FAA, okay, I like filing complaints in paper. And I suggest that people file a complaint using paper documents, because an email goes and somehow disappears, right? But
So
if
a
they
letter
file
to
it,
the FAA.
they write a letter to the Federal Aviation Administration, the Office of Audit and Evaluation, and the address is 800 Independence Avenue, Southwest, Washington, D.C., 20591.
Okay,
And that
Did
goes
you
to
type that
the,
in? I was looking something up.
say that again. The
Did you
address.
type that in? I was
Oh,
looking that.
oh, so say it again, Captain. Say it
yeah,
again.
it's the Federal Aviation Administration, Office of Audit and Evaluation, 800 Independence Avenue, Southwest, Washington, D.C., 20591. I've written to them so many times. I have it. I have it memorized. It's easy. So they can file a complaint. For example, when the airlines demanded that you wear a mask when you buy a ticket, okay, you had to check a little box that says you will accept that. You will put a mask on, okay? What they did not tell you is that the FAA did not regulate the masking, which means that the crew members never received any emergency training for operations above 25,000 feet, for example, for depressurization, for oxygenation, for any emergency procedures. So essentially, the FAA, the airlines did not disclose these additional threats that they did not prepare the crew members for during their operations. So if they fly above 25,000 feet, the crew members have to be trained in these areas. And the training does not involve having a mask or a shield over your face or two masks or whatever for crew members, right? There's a certain time that a person can stay conscious if the cabin pressure is lost, and they have not adjusted for that, nor have they trained the crew members for the new conditions. Therefore, the ticket they sold you as a passenger does not meet the rules and regulations that they are supposed to
For
operate
people
under.
that aren't aware, there's charts. It's the time of useful consciousness, and it goes based on altitude and all kinds of factors that you have to put into the chart to figure out. And none of this was actually put in. So the time that it takes to react to an emergency, the procedures that you need to do in order to maintain safety of the aircraft and your passengers, none of that was addressed. It was all just kind of brushed aside under this guise of this emergency that required these outlandish, I don't know how to say this without being absolutely rude. So the things that they put in place that they've already proven did nothing to actually do anything that they said they were going to do, put so many lives in danger, and people haven't really wrapped their heads around how dangerous it was and is now. Some pilots are still wearing masks. There's always that guy, but
That's right.
you know, it really, it's not just a violation of our safety standards or operations or anything. It really put everybody in danger, and it completely, the contract between pilot and passenger was violated every time somebody went into that cockpit with a mask on, with PPE on that they weren't trained to use. Even in the walk in the airport to get into the aircraft, because the time that you're supposed to have to recover from a hypoxic situation, that's a chart too. Like none of this was actually upheld in a safety standard, and therefore, like he said, it violated the contract between the operator and the passengers, and it's disgusting. I'm sorry.
It is disgusting. Agree.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is, okay, there it is. Justice, I'm going to send you. Let me see. Yeah, I just sent it in an email. It has the email that the FAA Office of Audit and Evaluation sent to me, telling me that they have forwarded the complaint to the office, to the Surgeon General office. Now, I would recommend that anybody who is willing to write to the FAA Office of Audit and Evaluation to ask them to continue the investigation. You can tell them that you are aware of this investigation. You are aware that the FAA has shelved the investigation in violation of 49 US Code 46101. And you are aware that the FAA is under a writ of mandamus lawsuit to investigate, and you have concerns respecting safety of the pilots, their health safety and the safety of flights, and that you want them to commence the investigation or reinstate the investigation.
I'll post those documents on our chat for everybody.
Yeah, so if they reference that email, it has the number of the investigation that's assigned to the number that's assigned to the investigation, so they can pull it up and they can get all the information that I submitted, and the person who writes to them only has to mention the investigation number and say that they are familiar with that, they've heard about it, they understand what it is about, and that they want the FAA to commence the investigation. They cannot shelve it like they have, and ask them to reinstate the investigation. Now that's, yeah, what you're showing now is the summons that I sent to the administrator and the government lawyers. I have, by the way,
my God, so sorry.
Excuse me. I have two other plaintiffs who joined me. Jeff Chandler, he's another airline pilot, and between us, we have about 72 years of aviation experience. And the other, Mark, is a military medical officer who, after 18 years, was given the boot because he refused all the mandates. And they are both plaintiffs with me in this case against the FAA.
So let everybody know also that you're nominating yourself, and we're backing you up for the FAA administrator position in the Trump administration. So if you guys go to follow Captain Cross on X, I'll put that up again real quick, and see who he's tagging with his requests for. That's another great way to support him, is that he could be the next FAA administrator. So
do you have like a spiffy picture that we could use on our posts? What do you, how do you want us to promote you? Because we'll do what you need.
I have, well, my picture is, I put my picture up on X. There's a picture of me with Buzz Aldrin, and there's a picture that another picture of me only that I cropped, and I use those for now. I'm not a picture guy, but
there's one on the thumbnail for this show too.
Yeah, I'm looking, Justice. I'm looking for the letter that I received from the Surgeon General telling me the FAA does not plan on taking any further action.
Okay.
At this time, and I'll send it to you right now. I'm looking for it. I'll find it. The important thing is that letter. Like I said, the language, if you just read it, the language tells me that they have initiated an investigation and they decided to shelve it.
Yeah.
So it's clear. It doesn't need. I'll find it here. I'm looking at it. Look for it. There it is. Okay. So, okay, it should be coming to you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's signed by the FAA Surgeon General Susan Northrop, who I talked about as, she's violating the law. She's just not doing her job.
The summons in a civil action.
There's the summons, yeah, and then there should be the letter. There's one more.
Hold on, let's see.
Besides, it should be coming to you here.
I've got.
I have some personal stuff redacted on.
There we go. Okay, so let's see here.
So you can read it for yourself, right there. So okay. So here's a few more things I want to say. I don't sit idle waiting for these things to happen. So I've been communicating with the legal department, the FAA legal department. Oh yeah, there it is. That's the letter. And after I filed the lawsuit against the FAA, the chief legal counsel for the FAA resigned. Okay, coincidental? I don't know. Maybe not. The assistant, his assistant now, is who I've been communicating with. And remember, I talked about the private right to action. And just recently, in the last few days, I received a communication from her telling me, basically, she's telling me to go seek a private law firm to pursue the scenario that I presented to her.
And that's another thing.
Which has to do with a medical.
A lot of people don't know you're doing all of this pro se.
Yes, I am.
Which means without legal counsel, just for those.
That's correct. That's correct. So, I keep poking the bear, trying to get answers, and eventually they'll have to give me the answer that I want. And specifically the court, in this court, for example, the very same judge who ruled that I do not have private right to action, meaning go to the FAA and complain to them, don't come to me. Well, he is presiding over the same case of this case against the FAA, which is good because now he has to face his own words, because he told me go to the FAA, so I did, and the FAA says we're not going to do anything. So now I'm coming back to him, telling him, hey, you told me go to the FAA. I went to the FAA. They don't want to do anything, so they're depriving me of my due process under the law. You got to tell them to investigate. So it's in his court. It's back in his court. So he's going to have to face the music, if you will. He has to face his own words, or eat his own words. One of the two.
I just, I feel like, when you never quit is when justice prevails, and it's you're holding on so strong and doing so amazingly.
They do want you to quit. That's how they win.
That's
they
the
want you to quit.
That's their goal.
Yeah.
What are you doing
right.
to stay current flying? And
well, I fly my private stuff. So yeah, for me it was a fork in the road, nothing more. And as far as career is concerned, sure, I'm probably never going to go back because they don't want me back, not because I don't want to go back. It's my career. It's what I wanted to do since I was a little child. So,
Right.
so they're taking that away from me, and but I can appreciate that it was a fork in the road, and what I'm doing is very, very important, extremely
Right.
important, not for the pilots only, but for the country, because
Mhm.
Yeah.
the agencies, once they have taken control of the agencies, the belligerent occupiers, as my co-plaintiff calls them, Mark, they're belligerent occupiers. They are actually causing the agencies to fail intentionally, because that's how the country falls.
Mhm.
It becomes lawless,
Mhm.
and when the country is lawless, it falls.
Mhm.
It's no upside down. Everything is upside down. Nothing makes sense anymore,
Yeah.
right? That's how they want it.
Yes.
That's how they want it. That's the Bolshevik revolution.
That's the Communist Manifesto. It's all been written before. Put in
That's the
history.
Marxism. Yes, that's right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I don't mind telling you, I have made a promise to somebody years ago, without knowing what I'm doing today, or without knowing that what I'm doing today is what I promised to do years ago, and that is to fight Marxism.
Mm.
And here I am. I'm doing it.
I've
Wow.
been very similar with my grandma and my grandpa who
Yeah,
came from
I remember
Cuba.
talking about that. Yeah, I remember
Then
us
my
talking
dad,
about it.
who is passed now,
Yeah,
also told me to keep fighting. So I'm trying.
Mm.
yeah. No, you have to. And I keep saying that people really need to do something in their own little neighborhood, whatever, on the job, in the store, in the library, on their street, something. Just do something. Don't
Right.
sit and watch it happening, unfolding before you, and hoping that your politician that you elected is going to do it for you. They're not going to do it. They're
Well,
not going to do it.
God our Father in natural law says no man has authority over another.
That's
And
true.
if we elect somebody to speak on our behalf, that's all they have the right to do. And all of these
Exactly.
organizations have now taken control of people, and people just do as they're told. It's mind-boggling to me. You
It
don't
really
have to
is.
go into a store and cover your mouth. You don't have to do these things unless someone's holding a gun to your head. So,
That's yeah. I mean, that's right. They are our servants, and I make that clear every time I communicate with them,
yeah,
that
absolutely.
you are my servant. You are serving the people. I'm serving the people. I am serving the people. When the people gave me the authority to carry them, right, under the law, they gave me the authority to carry them. I have a duty not to allow American Airlines to impose a medical treatment on me. It is
Yes,
my duty.
that
It's
could
not
help
that.
you crash the plane.
That's right. It has nothing to do with my income. It has nothing to do with my job. It has to do with what the people gave me authority to do. And if I violate that, I don't deserve that duty. I don't deserve that authority.
But you're one of
It's that simple.
you have integrity, and integrity is a word that is just not in our vocabulary, and it's not being taught to children anymore. Broken homes. Integrity is the cornerstone of the American society,
That's
you know,
correct.
and so
It's,
we have to get that back, and we're not lost. And I don't believe America is a foregone conclusion. I just believe we're on the cusp of being a foregone conclusion. But as you said, the people, you have to stand up in your foot space for
that's
yourself
right.
and the person standing next to you, and don't
That's
expect
right.
someone else to do it.
And I think you have to be open-minded, and I think you have to identify the enemy.
Mhm.
And when you identify the enemy, you have to cast aside your beliefs that it can't be the enemy, because
Yeah.
your enemy could very well be what you have believed for years to be your ally.
Hmm.
So and I think there's more and more people waking up to the fact that that could be the case.
Right. Well, that's
That
what
could be the case.
psychological operations are all about, aren't they?
That's right, because that's the only way the enemy can infiltrate,
Right.
is
With
by
trust.
pretending to be your ally.
Yeah, Absolutely.
They've got to gain your trust, and then stab you in the back.
Yes.
That's how
Right.
it falls. That's
Yep.
how it falls. So, but I feel that the FAA is the one agency that is nonpartisan. That I don't want to say bipartisan, because it is nonpartisan, because it has nothing to do with party. It has to do with safety.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it is nonpartisan, and the agency that can easily realign with what the intent of the agency and the mission of the agency is. And once that happens, I believe that will make way for other agencies to fall in line and follow suit.
I agree.
So the FAA is very critical in that fact, in that step that we must take to regain control, over the all the agencies. Another thing that Crash asked, I certainly would make it very efficient. I certainly would make it like I get the emails, like you see the email that I received. It says hotline staff. Who the hell is the hotline staff? Who are they? Is that a person I'm talking to?
Right.
Where is the accountability? Who is the hotline staff? The hotline staff is not a person. So I would certainly make it so that every person who writes something
Is
will
accountable.
own it.
Yeah.
Will own it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't write it.
Yeah. Hotline staff is in Bangladesh.
Hotline staff is in Bangladesh or somewhere else that nobody knows where. They just don't want you to call them. They don't want you, and they stop calling you back. They stop responding to you. It's really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very patient. That's my fault.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
That's
strength.
not a fault.
That's a strength.
Well, for them, yeah, it is a problem. But yeah, I'm very patient and very determined to get to the bottom of this. And it's going to happen.
By all means, continue being a problem.
My belief has changed or has evolved. I don't want to say changed, because I've been doing it naturally for all these years, making things become reality. And it has been reinforced that you can make your reality, or you can make their reality.
Right.
One of the two. You got to, if you don't do anything, you're making their reality. But if you want to make your reality, then you've got to take action. You can't hint and hope. That's what we do in aviation. In aviation, we don't hint and hope.
Yeah.
We don't hint, hey, do you want the flaps? Do you want the flap? Do you want the landing gear down? No, we don't. We command it. Okay, we do it.
Right.
We make it happen.
Yep.
So in the past few years, that's been reinforced, and it's like a religion. You really have to believe it, act on it, and it will happen.
Yeah.
So,
taking action is huge.
Absolutely.
I tell my kids, if you do nothing, it's 100% failure. If you do something, you got a 50-50 shot. So you're 50% ahead of the game when you try.
Even if you just learn something, you still at least doing something.
Right.
Yes, more than 50-50. You're actually creating your reality.
Right.
Yeah. Do it again next time and you'll know what not to do.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, that I think that's pretty much on the legal front. They I don't see how they can get away with the court. I mean, I don't see how the court can get away with not issuing the order to the administrator to resume the investigation. I just don't see it.
They just want you to give up. That's all they want.
Yes.
They're going to keep playing this game and hope that eventually you're just going to go, that's enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's something that I've been saying on X. You'll see me type it. I say, free yourself from the shackles of the shekel. Because if you really want to be free, you have to free yourself from the money.
Yep.
You have to make decisions that are not based on
the
money first.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. You do that, then you are a slave.
It's very hard because we've been put in a trap. Yeah.
That's true.
You're lucky enough to have an income where some people, they need that money to feed their children on Friday. And it's been created that way.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But that's not the intent. The intent of my saying is that when you make decisions, make them based on principle.
Mm-hmm.
Make them based on there is I grew up in Lebanon, so and I grew up amongst people of other religions. Myself, I'm an Orthodox, but I'm not necessarily practicing Orthodox, but I have my beliefs, right? But Muslims, for example, believe that when you have a child, the child's fortune comes with them. They believe that the child's fortune comes with them. They don't worry about it. Oh, I can't have more than 2 children, or I can't have more than 1 child because I can't provide for them.
It, right?
You know, they believe that your fortune comes with you, and it's so true. You know, because your Creator provides for you.
Right.
Don't worry about it.
Right.
Just do it. You're not going to starve.
Right.
Nobody's going to starve. I mean, even the people on the street are not going to starve. The only people who are going to starve are the ones who are in a war zone and are prevented from finding any food.
Yeah, right. Right.
Those are the people who starve.
Right.
Right. But if you're here on the street somewhere, you're not going to starve. You're going to walk anywhere and find food. Somebody will feed you.
Right.
Okay. So
God always makes a way.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So that's why, even though I haven't been paid for 2.5 years, I don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm fine. You know, I was destined to be where I'm at, to do what I'm doing. So I accept that, and I'm happy.
And we love you and support you for it. It's been
well, thank you.
I'm so glad you're still in the game and still patiently fighting, and crashes too, and shows her beautiful face every now and again, pop up and say hello. And
I'm sorry, I haven't been around very much.
That's okay.
That's all right. And then when James comes back, we'll have another or in a couple of weeks, whatever, we'll have another session and we'll talk more about
we'll go through the documents.
More law. Yeah. I'll for that I'll prepare, I'll put together like a dossier and I'll send it to you, and hopefully I'll have something new to talk about. Who knows? Great. Maybe the government will fold and they'll say, you know what, he's got a point. Let's just do it.
Well, if everybody watching this gets on Twitter and contacts the FAA and tells them to support, Captain Saliba's effort here, that we're watching you, we see
That's
you.
Right.
This isn't just between you and him anymore. The American people are seeing, and we're supporting you, and support his nomination for FAA administrator. I think that would be a huge help.
Yeah.
So,
yes, I think if
pilot friends and whomever in the aviation industry or American patriots, just share it out and tell them to send a quick tweet or something, email, letter. Yeah,
for tweets, for example, they can tag at FAA_Mike. He's the administrator, and they can real quick, they can post that email that I gave to you. They can use that. They can post it and say, hey, we are aware of an investigation that you shelved. This has to continue. You must investigate. Bug him.
Let me find the exact email.
Now try to make your tweets a little bit professional, guys. Don't
get
too rowdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm always anything I write is always I keep it professional. I have the urge sometimes to say things that are not professional, but I don't.
Okay, so
I can't make that claim, but
I write an email. I write an email and then I edit, and then I realize that, oh no, I got to take all this stuff out and just keep it professional. So yes, that's the one.
Is this the one? Okay.
That's
So
the one.
forward this. I'll put this in our Telegram group. Affidavits 101 is the Telegram group. I'll add this, and you could forward this, email it, tweet it, whatever.
And the letter that I received from the Surgeon General. That's an important, because that shows they have initiated an investigation and shelved it. So
let's find that one.
So these two, the email and the letter from the Surgeon General, basically make my case.
Okay.
When you look at the law, when you study the law respecting this investigation, these two pieces of documents here basically state the law.
So that one, this one, and oh my gosh, why is it? This is in my way here. No, it won't disappear. Not this one.
This one is the email.
So send this one, yes.
Yeah, you can use this one.
Okay.
You can use both in the same tag if you want to tag the administrator.
This one, and this one.
This one, and I don't see the other one.
This one's Susan Northrup.
Yeah, Susan Northrup. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it, but that's the one.
Okay, so this, so Susan Northrup, the one where it's FAA disclosure with the FAA hotline, the first one, and then.
That's right.
Okay.
These two.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anything else before we go? Thanks so much for joining us again. And
thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I'll remember things after we're done, but we can catch up.
Yeah, we'll get more into the technical stuff when James returns. And James, we want to say that our prayers are with your little boy. Apparently he broke his arm just before the broadcast, but we'll find out.
Comfrey root compresses.
Comfrey root compresses, which you can't get comfrey in Utah, but you can order it online. So I'm sure I'll have a cast. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us again, and seeing Crash and I again. Crash, you don't know this because I haven't told you this, but they took all our videos off of YouTube.
I discovered that when I went to try to find the broadcast, and I was like, wait a second.
Yep. So any of the Crashing Justice stuff is now is on Cloud Hub because it always got copied over to Cloud Hub, but it's
that's how out of the loop I've been. My life has been an absolute mess the last year, so I wasn't trying to ignore everybody. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And good luck. Good luck to your husband.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's in pursuit of a new pilot career, right? New company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All righty then. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. James will be returning next time. And Captain, thank you. Keep up the good fight.
Thank
We're
you.
praying for you, and we're supporting you. And have a great day, everybody. Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.